Among Us! Among Us!
Back in 2018, Innersloth, a small American game development company, published the game Among Us. Innersloth initially released it to little mainstream success. That stayed that way for 2 years. For the most part, the developers wanted to give up on the game. That is, until August 2020. Then, everything started to change. Nearly instantaneously, the game started to blow up in popularity. When Among Us was initially published, it averaged about 30 to 50 players online. This amount did increase into the low thousands, but the game really never took off. However, in an extensive leap in popularity, hundreds of thousands of players on average decided to play the game at once, with peaks into 500,000 users. But what was Among Us about, and how did it get so popular so suddenly? For that, we gotta go back to the beginning. Among Us was inspired by the live party game Mafia and the science fiction horror film The Thing. The idea for the concept was originally given by Marcus Bromander, the co-founder of Innersloth, who had played Mafia since he was a kid. In the original game, function cards were dealt as all players wandered around the house aimlessly, while another person secretly killed the players, drawing a finger around their neck. Most of its mechanics were still present in Among Us, but the team wanted to alleviate the need to create an interesting home model and have someone wandering around in a boring environment. So they decided that the game would be space themed and also added tasks, which, according to Forrest Willard, programmer at Innersloth, changed several times during development. Development began in November of 2017. The game was initially intended to be a mobile-only local multiplayer with a single map. Bromander paused development on Innersloth's other game, the Henry Stickmin Collection, in order to build Among Us' first map, The Skeld. When they began developing the first map, they intended that the ship was always in crisis and that the imposters could do tasks. However, they found the setup stressful and decided that it would not leave much time for detective work and informed meeting conversations. Willard described playtesting as painful and frustrating, as the game would break down during sessions, forcing him to send playtesters new builds off Google Play. The team tested the game with 8 of their friends and never tested the game with 9 or the maximum 10 players. The game was developed using the Unity engine. The weirdest thing about Among Us is that it took so long to break out. It came out in 2018 and was relatively popular for a short period. However, that really wasn't much compared to the explosion of interest in 2020. Twitch has a tendency to snowball like this. Once a game gets a lot of viewers on it, streamers start to gravitate towards it. A popular category can mean more viewers for them. Then bigger streamers go to a game, and more viewers are drawn to it too. This can make an older game like Among Us turn into an overnight hit. But who kicked it off initially? If we look back over 2020, streamer SR_Cafe, who had over 136,000 followers, played Among Us consistently over 2020, often an audience of more than 2,000 viewers every single time. Starting in May, a pair of bigger streamers named Admiral Bulldog with almost 700,000 followers and Sing Sing with almost 600,000 followers started playing a few hours of Among Us, giving it a big boost. Nothing compared to July. Then, American streamer Sodapoppin gave Among Us a try. Sodapoppin doesn't just jump into the game with random players, he gets friends and fellow streamers to play, which seemed like a key ingredient in Among Us' future viewer growth. It's a game that any streamer can play, without the expertise of needing to be good at Fortnite or League of Legends or other games like that. And putting 10 streamers in one room just magnifies the celebrity power, truly the Avengers of yelling into a microphone that you didn't do it. By the end of the month, Sodapoppin had racked up over 631,000 hours of Among Us watch time. Korean streamer Diaby was next with 360,000 hours. An underappreciated part of the success of Among Us is its language support, with it being available in English, Portuguese, Spanish, and Korean. From GTA Online racing through Fall Guys and then Among Us, influencers and media personalities are finding ways to reach through other audiences while playing the same games. While Among Us was released in 2018, it was not until mid-2020 that it saw a surge of popularity, initially driven by content creators online in South Korea and Brazil. Bromander said that the game was more popular in Mexico, Brazil, and South Korea more than the United States. According to Willard, Twitch streamer Sodapoppin first popularized the game on Twitch in July of 2020. Many other Twitch streamers and YouTubers follow suit, including prominent content creators XQC, Pokimane, Shroud, Ninja, MrBeast, Disguised Toast, and PewDiePie. The game's popularity continued in the following months. YouTube reported that the videos about Among Us were viewed 4 billion times in September of 2020, and TikTok videos related to Among Us had over 13 billion views in October of 2020. It took surprisingly long for Among Us activity on Steam to catch up with the rising interest in streams. It was discounted in the Steam Summer Sale from June 25th to July 9th, but that didn't cause a massive jump in players. The playground grew slowly through the first half of July, at least on PC, and then it went off like a rocket. Looking at Steam reviews, we can see reviews start to uptick at the very end of July, but the last week of August is the really huge jump. It's still hard to put into perspective how quickly Among Us grew. Even though it was getting thousands of players and many more Twitch viewers over July and August, September was on another level. Using recent snapshots from the Wayback Machine, we can track how many times the game was downloaded from Android's Google Play Store, On September 3rd, it had more than 10 million, already a huge number. By September 8th, more than 50 million, and by September 21st, over 100 million downloads. Looking back over the game's life, it's not like Among Us was ever a failure. It hit 1 million downloads in August of 2019. Certainly a success for an indie game made by only 3 developers. It's a perfect social game for 2020, and a cute but devious counterpart to Fall Guys, which was also popular at the time. Tracing Among Us's rise back through the year, I think streamer SR Cafe is the one who primed Among Us for its big moment. He streamed it every month since January, pulling in more and more viewers each month he played it. The rest of the PC gaming world just finally started paying attention. The success of Among Us showed how games didn't need good graphics or the best gameplay to be successful. They just needed something friends can play with and enjoy. As lockdown boredom continued to settle in 2020, Among Us continued to consistently be one of the most popular games out there, despite its meager origin. Among Us gained immense popularity in 2020 primarily due to its perfect storm of accessibility, social interaction, and timing. Released in 2018, it gradually gained attention through the word of mouth and streams, but its explosion in 2020 was largely fueled by the COVID-19 pandemic, which forced people into isolation and heightened the need for remote social activities. Its simple yet engaging gameplay mechanics, where players must identify imposters among their crewmates through discussion and deduction, proved to be incredibly entertaining and conducive to online multiplayer sessions with friends or strangers alike. Additionally, its low barrier to entry, being free or very affordable on mobile devices, and the rise of live streaming platforms like Twitch further fueled its popularity, turning it into a global sensation virtually overnight.